So, somebody wanted to know what is a liberal versus a conservative. I guess the short answer would be conservatives believe in less government, and liberals believe that the government should be used to enforce a ideology of liberalism. And what I mean by that is this: conservatives really what they believe is they believe that the government is really only for the purpose of establishing and enforcing liberty, freedom, the laws, and the protection of people. That's really what the government is for. The government is not there to do anything else other than to protect already the human rights that we have, such as the right to be able to own property, the right to be able to make our own choices, the right to be able to start our own businesses and things of that nature. They believe that the government's job basically is just to protect those things. It's basically to protect our morals, to protect our values, and to protect basic human values that we hold dear. So the reason why somebody doesn't run up in your house is because we have established in the government that there are laws, and that's what they think that the role of the government is basically to just establish laws that promote freedom, liberty, and basically your value system. Liberals on the other hand are kind of weird because and I could get into kind of what is liberalism versus now what would be in today's time people on the left or leftism, because there's a difference to me. But liberals believe that the government should be used to intervene to make people's lives better. They kind of believe in kind of a utopian kind of society where, if there's someone who's poor, it's the government's job to intervene to make sure that the poor person isn't going without. If something is happening in terms of what they would deem a injustice, they believe that it is the government's job to have to come in and to enforce or to turn around whatever the injustice was. One view basically, and here's really what it is in a quick nutshell. One government or one view, really, you believe kind of what the government is there for is only there to protect you. That's it. Just to protect. That's it. Another view is you believe that the government should be involved in all facets of life. And so you believe that the government should be able to intervene to establish what is valued and what is right and what is wrong. So one example of this policy would be, just for example, conservatives believe in, less taxes, being able to live off of what it is that you earn. So a conservative policy would be something to the effect of deregulating government regulations on starting a business. Right now, you can't just start a business. Your child, for the most part, usually cannot go and just start selling hot dogs on the corner. Somebody eventually at some point would come and say, hey, you don't have a license from the state, or you don't have a license to do this here, or you don't have this, or you don't have that, so you can't do it. A conservative would say, if you have the capital to be able to go buy hot dogs and sell the hot dogs and people want to actually go and get them, we don't think that we should be able to stop you from selling hot dogs. If you think that you can make clothes and you want to sell clothes, we don't think that you should have to have a license to go and sell clothes to people. And so that would be less government. Now, people who believe in more government, or who I believe are usually classically liberal or on the left, they believe that the government should be able to intervene and tell people that they shouldn't be able to start a business without doing this first, without doing that first, without making sure you hire this person, without making sure that you have a license for this, that you don't have a license to do that. And so A liberal policy would be more along the lines of, whenever you want to start this, you need to go to your government and actually ask them for permission to do so, because the government will tell you the right type of way to own a business. They'll tell you how many people that you need to hire, how many people of this gender that you need to hire, how many people of that race that you need to hire, what you can and cannot use, what you cannot do, where you cannot have it, where you're not allowed to have it. And so that's really one good example of being a liberal versus also being a conservative. A conservative also believes in freedom, freedom of thought, freedom of choice, meaning I have the freedom to really think and do what I want, but my freedom is not going to infringe or take away from your freedom if I have anything to say about it. So, for instance, a conservative thought process would be, well, this is what I believe, and if you don't believe this, you're free to really believe what you believe, and we can agree to disagree and just be separate. A liberal type of philosophy on that would be, well, the only thing that you should believe is something that is decided upon by the government, and if you don't agree, we should have the right to bring you into compliance with it or force you into it. So, for instance, if I'm a conservative and I believe in traditional marriage, I believe in traditional marriage all the way, and that's my definition of marriage. But a liberal would say, well, your definition isn't good enough, and so we should be forced to be able to come and make you acknowledge our marriages just like how they're your marriages. And me, the conservative, I would say, I don't want to acknowledge your marriage or to have anything to do with it. I just want to be able to think what I think about what I know about marriage in my life. I don't want to infringe on you or do nothing to you, but I just want to have the ability to say, this is what I believe. You can take it or leave it. We can agree to disagree. But liberalism, what it does is it comes in and it says, no, you should have to believe this. And if you don't, it's inherently a quote unquote racist policy, or you're being racist or you're being bigoted. And so you kind of can see where the slope starts to kind of tilt to the left or tilt to the right. Because I think most people really, if they really thought of it like that, they are conservative, but they don't think of it that way because we don't believe nowadays in freedom of thought. Liberalism, you can only think one way as a liberal, whereas a conservative, you can think any way that you want. And the difference is that the conservative is okay with you disagreeing with them. So I would say that's probably the biggest difference between a liberal and a conservative. There's more that we'll get into, but and I can explain kind of some policies that are liberal versus conservative policies, but that's pretty much what you'll have to deal with or come to the conclusion of if you're trying to figure out whether or not you're a liberal